During the recent 5+5 summit, Malta reiterated its commitment to fulfill what it sees as its vocation of promoting stability and dialogue in the Mediterranean. How do you view Malta's role in promoting development and synergy among the countries on both sides of the Mediterranean shores?
Malta has had a natural vocation over thousands of years. It finds itself in the middle of these two enormous continents. The European continent, which is one of the most developed economies in today's world, and the North African part of the continent, which is a different culture, a different way of life, with different challenges. And Malta has, over centuries, managed to move forward by doing business with both continents, by being part and parcel of this culture, by promoting a way of doing things together, around the table, exchanging ideas, exchanging cultures, learning from each other, experiencing the advantages and disadvantages that each country and each people has. So the way we envisage things for the present and for the future is to continue to press on this. The Mediterranean is perhaps the richest part of this region, of this part of the world. It has such enormous potential in culture, in history, in patrimony, in natural beauty. And all it takes is for us to come together and expose the assets that each country has and maximize on it. There's a lot of common ground and there's a lot of common interest. What is known as the cradle of civilization is in fact the center of potential commercial activity, cultural exchanges, social challenges, environmental realities, but also a beautiful future as well. So Malta aims to continue to contribute to make this happen in the present and in the future in all fora, whether regional or international.
This takes us to another important point mentioned during the 5+5. In fact, during the summit, you stressed that there is much work to be done in laying the foundations for a new Mediterranean partnership. Can you elaborate on the immediate and long-term work that needs to be done?
Yes, obviously the Arab Spring brought a tremendous change. Countries that have been under a dictatorship for so many years have suddenly gone through a transformation which took place in a very brief period of time. And what was fascinating is that the social media was a tool that transformed this inspiration into a movement that removed dictators and the enormous power they had, and have now introduced a new experience, which is the experience of democracy. It's a long and winding road. It is a difficult challenge. It is a transformation that needs to take place. But this is it. This is the beauty of the times we are living in and the challenges of the future that faces us, all of us, together. So what we have to do now is contribute as much as possible to achieve stability as quickly as possible. The challenge immediately is this. Countries that have initiated this transition need to achieve political stability as quickly as possible. Stable governments, democratic governments, enjoying the full trust and confidence of their own people because they are chosen by their own people to manage their people, without the interference of foreign governments or foreign influences. It is an Arab uprising. It is an Arab spring. It is not a European spring. It is not an Arab spring created by European values. It is an Arab uprising requesting the right for freedom of expression, the right for freedom of association, the right to choose your leaders, and the right to move forward. They are rich countries as well. They have a lot of assets. So the immediate challenge is this: political stability, which hopefully would then allow all the necessary energies to come together to create an economic stability. That is the next big, important step, urgent step for all the peoples living in this part of the world.
I believe you also agree on the important factor of research and development. In fact, addressing the conference on sharing of knowledge across the Mediterranean organized by CERN and MCST in May 2011, you noted that research and innovation are key to the future economy. What are the main challenges towards ensuring the kind of common understanding and cooperation such a vision requires?
Yes, the concept of research and development is fundamental throughout the whole world. We are a generation, we are lucky in a sense, because we have seen the birth of technology that has changed the reality for everyone. Even Malta itself. Malta is an island which suffered enormous disadvantages because it is surrounded by the sea, cut off from the major markets. Any imports cost us more, any exports cost more. Our competitiveness was at a big disadvantage compared to others. But the advent of technology, the advent of the World Wide Web, the advent of services and IT services and financial services allows us to be able to compete on a level playing field with other countries all over the world. So technology brought new opportunities, amongst which is the opportunity for further research and development, for creativity, for innovation, which are fundamental for every country, very fundamental for Malta, extremely important for this region of the world. I'm talking now about the Mediterranean. Research and development in Europe is already very well advanced. We can tap into this resource by coordinating even with the Arab world and with the North African countries in particular to develop specialized area in research and development. You see, very often the difficulty is research and development is such a wide terminology. What do you mean? Which sector? What areas? In the Mediterranean, water. In the Mediterranean, alternative energy, solar power, all of these environmental issues, the Mediterranean Sea in itself, and how to keep it healthy. And all of these issues are typical topics for creative and innovative research and development, which will eventually benefit not just this region, but I would say would benefit the whole world. So this is an area which deserves our full attention and deserves, of course, the investment of resources for it to be able to succeed. There are disadvantages for countries such as Malta because of the size, because of the limited resources, because you need human resources well trained. But this is where education comes in. Education is fundamental, it is vital. Without education spread throughout the whole generation, nothing of the sort can happen. And this is a message which the 5+5 final document from Malta listed as one of the most important objectives for this cooperation between Europe and North Africa, between the 5 countries in Europe and the 5 countries in North Africa, for them to come together to exploit the potential of education for the benefit of everyone.
You've mentioned education, which is a highly topical issue, particularly for the new post-spring countries, talking about Tunisia, talking about Libya, and all the countries at large. Do you think that higher education, generally speaking, is being given all the importance it deserves in the development planning of the Mediterranean region? Which way forward would you hope to see put into the effect in this area?
Well, what I realized during the 5+5 meetings in Malta, sitting around the table with 4 other colleagues from the European Union and 5 other colleagues coming from 5 major North African countries, which included Libya and Tunisia in particular, but also other countries, it is more than clear that there was consensus that education is the key for the future of all of us. All of us. We're not just talking one side of the Mediterranean. The north and the south and the west and the east depend for the future on our total ability to invest heavily in education. So there is a lot that has been done, there is a lot more that needs to be done. And this is where Malta in itself can offer, and is offering already, a number of initiatives to support the participants of the 5+5, especially on the North African coast, our neighbors to the south, the experience we have in education. A lot of people ask, but why is Malta managing to overcome the enormous economic and financial challenges of a modern world today? Why is Malta performing economically better than practically all our neighbors surrounding us? And the answer to that is because we have always managed to invest heavily in educating our human resources, from a very young age right up to an age even middle age and higher. Because education is the key in today's world. A knowledge-based society depends completely on our ability to invest in education. Now, what we're doing in a number of instances, we are already taking initiatives with Libya, for example, because we have signed a memorandum of understanding whereby Libya itself that has a property in Malta will be upgrading this property and converting it into a training institute for high-level middle management Libyan people who want to learn more about the European way of life, more about the languages that are required to discuss, to dialogue, and more about the European Union, more about the internal market, more about the single market. And vice versa, the Maltese government has offered to open up a mirror campus of the Malta College for Art, Science and Technology, our MCAST, in Misurata, for us to be able to provide an area where we can train in parts of Libya Libyan students, for them to be able to obtain talents, crafts, vocational assets, which will serve them a lot in the different sectors of their economy. So you see, education is not only a necessity, it is an important tool that will probably bring people together and allow us to share with each other the successes and the experiences which will benefit both sides.
This leads us to the final question. Basically, on the 12th and 13th of October, the Parliamentary Assembly for the Mediterranean held its 7th plenary session in Malta. What role do you foresee for such initiatives in striving the development of the Mediterranean region?
I believe a lot in the validity of institutional initiatives. So the Parliamentary Assembly is an important institution that gets the parliamentarians together for them to focus on items that are important for the region, that are of priority for the region in particular. And that could have a positive impact to all the states that exist in this part of the world. But it's not just the Parliamentary Assembly for the Mediterranean. There is the Union for the Mediterranean, for example, the 5+5 in itself, the policy documents of the European Union, the neighbourhood policy, for example, and the financial instruments, all of which coming together can provide a very powerful tool to stimulate the economy, to open up new opportunities, to open up markets. You know, one topic which we discussed during the 5+5 and which could easily be taken up both at the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean but also in the Union for the Mediterranean. You know, the potential of a future union of Arab states from the North African coast and the vision of a union of a single market now, which is not the European single market. It will be the North African single market. Imagine the enormous market that there would be, the potential for business, the benefits that it would create for the economic development and success of those countries. The biggest challenge they have at this point in time is precisely to create an economy that generates jobs, and that generates jobs especially for the younger generation. This is the biggest challenge that everybody faces at this point in time. And therefore, the regional and institutions, as well as the international institutions, can all work together in order to be able to provide the framework for this development to take place, for the identification of priorities, but also to generate economic activity in this region.
Honourable Prime Minister, we thank you very much for your time and for sharing your views on the Mediterranean. Thank you very, very much for your time.